Okay, folks, I'm looking at this camera right here. Okay. This is Mick Sterling, and this is another live edition at the Bayfront Blues Fest 2021 for the Mick Sterling Experience podcast. And these two very talented women just showed up in the tent. Myra, Burnette, and Debbie Briggs. They just played at the outdoor tent. Actually, it's not even a tent anymore.
It's not a tent anymore.
Now, outdoor stage. Things have changed a little bit here at Bayfront, and we're so glad you guys are here. Thanks for coming.
Oh, we're so glad to be here. Thank you.
So what I try and do in this podcast is, because I've been in the trenches longer than you guys have, but you're in the trenches now. So I'm trying to kind of get some different perspective of different questions. But let's start with the basics. So now I've seen Myra perform with her own band. So talk about this duo, how long you guys have been doing this.
Yeah, well, we actually met in a speakeasy of all places back in the end of 2019, I think it was. And funny enough, we started chatting when she was on break because she was performing that evening. And I just kind of stumbled across, and she was actually just filling in with another band. It wasn't even her band. And it turns out we had all these things in common, and our music tastes were very similar, and our parents were of a similar age that listened to this kind of older 20s, 30s, 40s music. And we were talking, realized we were both singers and such, and decided that we should get together and jam, and then just kind of snowballed from there in the best way,
Yeah, absolutely.
The genre you two do is very unique. What's the inspiration? What moves you about those songs of that era?
For me, it's the driving beat. The guitar from that era is mostly just laying down quarter notes, 4 on the floor like this. And there's something about that just swings so hard, and I just love to get people dancing. I think people respond to that internally. It's an instinctual thing. But yeah, we also are kind of, with the Good Time Gals, it's a bit more across the board in terms of genres.
Yeah.
We do some bluegrass influenced songs. We even entered ourselves into a bluegrass competition as a duo. So yeah.
There's a lot of artists out there that don't consider themselves to be put in a box of one specific genre, and I think we're artists like that as well, where we take influences of blues, we take influences of jazz and bluegrass and old country tunes Western swing, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Just pulling inspiration from all over the place, and it does give us a little bit of a more unique sound, even though it does kind of have those vintage roots. And also that informs kind of our writing style, because we actually write some of our own songs as well.
When I see you two, when you do a great job of posting your stuff, your social media, I think is very clever. But it's interesting when I watch you two. It reminds me of actresses from the 30s to the 50s. Where the roles were so distinctive. They're so different than what female roles are now. Lana Turner and Betty Davis, and I think the roles were more interesting back then to me. It seemed like there was more of a challenge for them as actors. But what I think what you both are doing is such a unique thing that you must really catch people's attention by doing the genre that you're doing.
I think that is in part what catches people's attention, but I think another thing that really draws people in is the vocal harmonies. Just because we spend so much time working on that together, we really try to blend, and we live together as well. So we practice all the time. We're hey, do you want to meet me in the living room? And we'll just run through some tunes, and we work on our harmonies together. And that's we're aiming for that blood harmony thing, even though we're not sisters.
The family harmony thing. Isn't that interesting about families?
It is.
You can have two sisters sing together and sing exactly the same harmony as two non-sisters, and the sisters always sound better.
Yeah.
They've got this weird, because they know how each other breathe.
Yeah.
They've been there in the trenches, back before they were doing stuff.
Yeah. It's funny, so often people do ask if we're sisters, during shows and things, or not during, but, after, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we're not, but, you get that, I think, sensibility when you do kind of live together and work together and have all of that time, especially because of COVID, we've had extra time together.
Sure.
So.
So, Myra, I know that you were doing some things in Europe.
Yeah.
Are there plans for both of you to be doing some touring in Europe and in other countries with this, or are you planning on just being in the nation?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're just going to take this as far as it can go. So we'd love to be in Europe. I've been there before. I think that they would like what we do. So yeah, for sure, we want to bring it to Europe.
I mean, talk about what I know only peripherally because I've worked with women off and on, for decades doing what I do, but what's it like to be a woman in this business? Talk about the challenges and talk about the things that maybe not some of the obvious things that people would stereotypically think would be an issue, but what are the things that as a woman that you find more challenging than maybe men in this business?
Well, one thing that's I do think a little bit interesting is that because we are doing that female-female harmony, it does set us apart. So many times we play places and they say, most of the time the people that we have here, it's like a guy with a guitar, and they don't really have a huge roster of talent of women, and especially women with harmonies and at our level. So that does kind of set us apart, and it's kind of more like female empowerment of like trying to have a female-led project with all women instrumentalists, all women vocalists, and that as opposed to I don't know.
I think as a guitar player who's female, I think people sometimes treat me like an oddity, which sadly, like, that should be a common thing, but they don't. Yeah. It's always like female guitar player, but nobody says, oh, the male guitar player did so great, So that's kind of interesting. But also there's no HR department, so if there's like a club manager who is sexist, you have to just deal with that person directly, and it's also in a way where you're afraid to lose that gig, but you feel like you have to be tactful, but you still want to stand your ground, really. So there's just managing, the finesse of managing that can be really complicated.
And to be fair, Myra probably comes across some of that stuff even more because she is such an awesome guitarist and such. I think through history it's always been kind of accepted that women are vocalists.
Yeah, that's true.
Even in the very beginning of time. So there's things that I don't necessarily get the brunt of as often. And you've been in the business longer than I have too. So
just say I had somebody ask once if I had a player guitar, like a player piano that plays itself, because they didn't believe that it was me.
Well, and even that description, when somebody plays guitar, they don't say male guitarist.
Yeah,
they say guitarist.
Yeah.
Or you're really good for a girl.
Yeah, that
exactly.
comment too. Yeah. All the time.
So, what's next? I mean, so now you two are together doing this, and is there a recording project? Is a touring? So tell us about that.
Well, it's really exciting. We actually just announced the other day on KFAI Radio that we are launching our fundraiser on GoFundMe.
Nice.
And folks can go to our website, which is www.thegoodtimegalsband.com. And we're just kind of in the fundraising phases of that right now. And then in fall, we're going to record. And then we're hoping for a winter release. So, it'll have originals on there, and it'll be exciting stuff. So,
That's great. Your act is so unique. You're at Bayfront Blues Fest. People, I saw some of the show. People love what you do. It seems like to me, if you wanted to, you could do any blues fest in the country. This would easily work in any blues fest in the country. Is that kind of what? Is that the level that you want to be at blues fest and folk fest? That's where you want to go with this?
If it ever gets to be too much fame, we'll let everybody know. But I think we're good to just kind of keep on rolling.
You'll keep us posted if there's too much fame.
Anyone out there wants to donate into our fame.
It's so hard being both of you. It really is. It's so hard. Well, ladies, thank you very much for being a part of this, and great to see you, and congratulations on the festival, and future good luck. Great. Thanks, ladies. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.